Mitch Harb, welcome to the Barcode Collective podcast. First time actually meeting, which happens a lot, although it is virtual. In a weird way, I feel like I do kind of know you because I have caught several of your podcasts. I see you on Instagram, probably creeping on you on Instagram because as I pulled you up on IG today, I noticed I don't even follow you from my personal account. So it must be from the FitBar account that I'm getting all your content. So first off, I just want to say thank you for making the time out your busy schedule to jump on here, not only to share your story, but to drop some nuggets on people in the health and fitness industry about nutrition coaching, personal training, and all of that. So Mitch Harb, welcome to the Barcode Collective podcast. And it's easy, Mitch. Easy wins, Mitch.
Yeah.
I mean, we let's talk about that too. I mean, because you could have very easily went with low carb Harb.
I like that.
There's a time and a place. As we do some cyclical dieting, there's a time and a place. Right before that summer shred, maybe it's that low carb Harb.
Right. When I'm on that triathlon game, can't be though.
Not at all. So do me a favor, man, and introduce yourself to the audience, man. This is largely FitBar customers, Barcode Collective customers, and hopefully we'll build the Space Bar audience as we do this too. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me. I know were you at the Vigor Summit?
Just in spirit.
Gotcha. Because I know Andrew was there. Your other brother was there.
Yeah.
And the whole team. So I was like, I probably met Jacob too. But
honestly, if you meet Andrew and Daniel, you're essentially meeting me, man. We're a fucking mashup of a very similar personality. We just got our own little spin on things.
Yep. I can see it. But that's a good thing, man. You guys are great dudes. So a little bit about me, run a company called HiDef Seattle with my business partner, Zach Smith, who is a physical therapist. So we provide physical therapy, personal training, nutrition coaching, and then mindset coaching as well. So he does the physical therapy and some training, and then I do the training and nutrition, and we both kind of collab on the mindset stuff. But yeah, born and raised out here and grew up in Kent,
okay,
but now living out here in Seattle.
That Pacific Northwest, man, I miss it at times, but it's crazy how soft you get when you move away from the clouds and the rain. So it's like whenever I'm up there, it's in and out, and with all the COVID shit, man, it's been a while. It's been a long stretch since I've been home.
Well, it's funny because I'm like almost feeling like the weather is more important. It's like if we got to be inside, I at least want to like look out and see the sun. So I'm jealous of you out there in Cali. Yeah,
man, it's beautiful down here, but it comes with its own set of challenges, like anything else. We always think the grass is greener, but, missing the family and missing, the support system, more than ever right now. That's for sure. So.
Oh, I bet.
So you grew up in Kent, man, which is just outside of Seattle, like you mentioned. Tell us a little bit about like what that was like growing up. So often I think in the health and fitness industry, there's like a couple different people who get into that. One is people who are just like genetically gifted, shredded, jacked, and they segue into that. And then there's people who kind of had a little different journey of maybe childhood obesity or being picked on or whatever it is. How'd you come to the game of health and fitness and decide to make that a career?
Yeah, man, it's interesting because it was almost something that was always in my life. Like I was just an athlete since I can remember, 4 years old, and I just never stopped. And my goal was obviously, like most kids, to make the NFL. And then, started to realize like that was dwindling even more. Then I was like, man, I just want to get a scholarship, play football somewhere. Started to dwindle even more, and then didn't really get any offers, full ride offers. So I was like, well, I guess the sports dream is over with. I'll just go to college like most people and get a business degree. I was like, I'll just start a business or something like that.
Yeah.
So went to Central Washington University, got a business degree, and still worked out every day, was hooping all the time. Just sports were always in my life. And then left there, moved to Portland, got a job at an aerospace company out there. Just hated the job, but my release was like still the gym. Like it was always there.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was there at work, I was like, man, I got to figure something else out. Like this is not it. And I still never considered, like for me, it was like, oh, if you can't make it pro, then you got to just get a real job, right? Because that was kind of what was always preached when I was growing up. And we didn't have like Instagram and all these influencers and like entrepreneurs really. So then I started to listen to podcasts, read more. I was listening to like Tim Ferriss and Lewis Howes, and I was like, oh, what's all this?
Yeah.
And I realized there was more out there. And then one of my buddies who I met out there in Portland, he is a coach for the Trailblazers. And he was like, man, like you love fitness. You're so into it. He's like, why is this not something that you would even consider?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I just kind of didn't think that was a possibility. You always hear the stories like, no one's really making it as a trainer or something like that, or there's only a couple that are doing it. And I was just like, well, why would I not just take a shot?
Right. It's like you're given permission, you know what I mean? Like it was, for one, it's like, again, like you're seeing somebody, somebody close to you now who's seen success. That motherfucker broke the 4-minute mile for you. And then it's like giving permission to do it and take that lead.
Exactly. And, and I won't say it was like, all right, next step, I was a trainer. It was a gradual thing because I still wasn't really like completely convinced, but I was like, well, I can start to build something. And from there, I was just like, I know I don't want to do this, so I got to start finding other options. And, I helped out a friend with an app, with their social media. So I learned that a bit, and I was like, well, I started to learn that I could do the social media, but if I'm not passionate about what I'm promoting, like it wasn't as fun. And then, so I just kept coming back, like, what would you be passionate about? And it kept coming back to health and fitness. So initially I started the Easy Wins podcast, and that was like my in to just talk to more people like my buddy who was the Blazers coach, just to kind of network, learn more about what goes on and how you can even like make this a real career and journey. And got a lot of good advice. And really, this is what I tell people. It's like all the advice is out there, but are we actually going to take action and do those things? And, that like I had some good people on, they're like, get certified here, do this one. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it because I see the path. It worked out for you. I might as well try. Did all that. And then, continuously always learning, but did all that, got where I could finally start to take some clients on, bridge that gap. It was a scary jump, quit my job almost like 18 months ago now. And and then, my buddy Zach, we actually went to high school together. Okay. And we were always like, man, we're both interested in this. We should try to for a little bit, we were just trying to help each other. And then we're like, why don't we just put this all together?
For sure. And
really go for it. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah. I mean, what year is it that you started the podcast?
2017.
Yeah. I mean, that's OG status right there. I mean, you got a lot of episodes under your belt. I think it's like 250 or something like that. So, yeah. I mean, that's impressive in and of itself, because with all of this shit, and I think the things that you believe in, we largely believe in, which is like slow, steady, stay committed. And it's a fucking hard as hell to do that within the health and fitness industry when you see so many people cutting corners, and, now that social media is such a thing, and like just cutting corners a bit there, and just like, it's hard not to try to, it's hard not to stay out of that game. You know what I mean? Because, so again, your commitment to that podcast and staying with it for, damn 3 years now, if not more, is hats off to you. What's that journey been like for you? I mean, because it's, I was consistent as shit last year, got super sidetracked when we started Space Bar, and just like didn't have the capacity to put any kind of thing, anything creative together. So how's that journey through the podcast world been, and your commitment to getting those episodes out there, man?
Yeah, man. What it taught me was that sometimes you have to pick and choose, right? Like when I was super consistent with that, because honestly, I've kind of moved a different route from that podcast like recently. But when I was like, the reason I got 200 something episodes was because every Monday and Friday, like that was a non-negotiable. And so once you set that, like those small amount of non-negotiables, I think you can actually be consistent with it. Where I see a lot of people are like, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to post on every platform as well. Then I'm going to run this business. And it just like, it doesn't happen. So for me, I was like, in the beginning when I wasn't coaching or anything like that, I was like, well, all I'm going to do is this podcast. So my time was spent reaching out to guests, really preparing, having time to record. Whereas then after a while, now I'm like, it's hard enough to like fit clients into my schedule versus like find people who are also busy to fit in the schedule. So it makes it tougher. But I guess what I also learned was that it's a lot easier to get in contact with people. A lot of people want to talk with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, man, we've met so many cool people. And now, we started, me and Zach started the HiDef podcast. And I look at it, and I always looked at it like this, but I look at it as like, who's the expert in this field? Let me get them on and almost like get a class from them. I want to learn more about your topics.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just, not to date the episode, but I did just listen to you guys and Jason Phillips, which is an awesome episode. But with any of this stuff, whether it's a podcast, whether it's like long form blog posts, whatever it is, like you guys need to listen to, or just think about like what your end goal is and the business that you're trying to create. You know what I mean? So it's like, when I say you guys, I picture, a younger version of myself, listening to this podcast. And, there's so many different ways to kind of go about it, but you just need to be conscious and be clear on why you're doing shit. You know what I mean? So like, again, like you committing to this long game of, okay, I'm going to just start making connections. I'm gonna start having conversations. I'm going to do this podcast, and doing Monday, Friday posts. And now, where you are in your business, sure, it still plays a role. Like you said, you still want to learn from the experts, but your business has shifted. You got to be in person. You got to deal with clients. You guys are operating out of a brick and mortar spot, so you guys have a place that you need to spend your time. And for us, it's just very interesting to kind of see how it all pans out. Like for us, originally my whole thing was like, I wanted to be a personal trainer, but where I was in that point in time, I had a full-time job. My brothers all had full-time jobs. There just didn't feel realistic for me to go and, get my certifications, start working at a gym. So, we just pulled kind of our resources, our credit cards that we had available. And we're like, fuck it, let's buy and open up a gym, so that was that, so we kept our full-time jobs and we did that whole thing. And then we got stuck in like this brick and mortar situation. I never got back to getting my personal training cert, like I'm so far removed from that, it feels like. But now it's like, okay, where are we at, man? I really want to have more one-on-one conversations, more touch points. We need to build out beyond our four walls and start building relationships with people online and have a little more reach. And that's where the podcast ended up coming in. That's why we launched it, a year ago, to start having more conversations, so that we could get back to more coaching on a one-on-one level or a small group level outside of our walls, because that's important to us. And it's important to me to feel more connected to the businesses. So, whatever it is, and there's something that will help push your business forward. And it doesn't mean you need to start with a podcast. Doesn't mean you need to start with, in-person clients, but there needs to be some intention behind it, some thought.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, is like, know why you're doing it. Cause in the beginning, I wasn't like, all right, I'm going to podcast and make all this money. It was like, I knew I want to figure out who are the people I want to get in contact with and how can I learn from them and hear their stories and create relationship, cause now it's like, oh, I know that guy and things like that. And you just start to build. And also for me, it was like, I didn't have a way to really add value to those people. Out like, hey, can you talk to me for an hour? Like, why? Now it's like, hey, can we have this podcast where I'm going to post it for other people to hear more about you, and you get out to my audience. So I think, yeah, you gotta consider that. And then, yeah, looking at our situation now, we realize that we want to connect with more people, but yeah, it's not like the main priority.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's like sometimes I find myself reminding myself is like, for us, and again, not only are we trying to build relationships outside of our four walls, like we do have places for people to come and see us and experience the Fit Bar or whatever. And if this is a tool for us to help grow awareness to our businesses and what is actually driving revenue for us, I need to and want to stay focused at a local level to talk to people. Like you're local to Seattle, your network is largely Seattle, so it makes sense for us to support each other locally. Even though I'm in Pasadena right now, a lot of my outreach is going to local leaders, local coaches, local health experts, because I have something of value that's really tangible for them that I can offer. It's like, hey, like, let me give you guys some discounts to the Fit Bar. Come check out the Space Bar, so, building up people that maybe don't have the audience that are just as knowledgeable as some of these high profile experts, and letting them share their story, because this journey of entrepreneurship at some point becomes unapproachable. When we only see these big name guys and we're not hearing exactly the grind that is definitely happening in the world. They just, can't or don't feel comfortable sharing it because they have, an image to uphold at that level. But like getting here and just talking about the shit show that some of these businesses are at times is really what I like to hear, man, because it makes me fucking feel better.
Oh, 100%, man. It's like, that's what I attribute to podcasting, is like, you hear people's stories on how they started, and you're like, oh, well, if that's how it was, like, I could do that, and I see how it could actually happen. Whereas, yeah, before you're like, that's not possible. But once you hear people, you hear that they're real people, you hear the struggles they had, you hear some similarities in your situation, you're like, I'm on the right track.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. So you went through the podcast, you're up in Seattle now. Kind of what was that next evolution of the business from like the podcast? Were you doing in-person coaching, online coaching, or what that looked like?
So from the podcast, then I was going and doing more nutrition coaching online, and started to build up my client base. And then, I was certified personal trainer, but I didn't have like that many clients. And I was also doing group fitness classes. So that kind of took up my time outside of working my full job. So I was training in the mornings, like 5 a.m. Then I would hit a couple classes, go to work. After work, I'd have my calls. So it was getting crazy. And then, it was actually Jason Phillips who was like, dude, he's like, why don't you just quit? He's like, what's stopping you? And I was just like, I don't know. Oh no. What I said was, well, what if I quit and all my clients leave? He's like, what if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, man?
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, you're right. Yeah. And, really started to crunch numbers, get specific. And I was like, yeah, I could make this work. And I think we always assume that if we do this, everything is going to drop to zero and everything is going to like, you're just going to lose all this stuff. But yeah, things might drop to zero. But if every day you're still working, like you're going to make up that deficit, right? Like it's never just going to be like this plunge unless you just stop. So if you believe that you're going to keep working no matter what, like I think that you'll find a way.
Do you think are you a pretty cautious person, like dialing in all the numbers, making sure rent was paid and all that stuff? Was that something that was like super important for you before taking that leap?
I think early on in my life, it was definitely like I was pretty, I don't know the word, but I wasn't really a risk taker. That's why I always wanted to take the safe route. I'll go to college, just get this degree. So I can definitely get a job. I'll get this job where, people aren't really getting laid off or things like that. And it was kind of a muscle I had to build. You start taking smaller risks. And then also that confidence in yourself. I think that's where it's like things aren't really risky if you know and believe in your abilities, but I think you still should get prepared, right? Because I could have just quit immediately when I was like, fuck this job. I got this. I'm going to go be a nutrition coach. And that would have made things a lot harder because then you aren't really able to focus on the business because you're so scared all the time. Like I don't have any money, and then also that creates a lot. That's why I see a lot of people taking shortcuts like we talked about earlier, is because they don't see the light. They're just like, I just need to get some cash. I don't care if I have to lie or sell fit tea or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think getting more specific about those numbers allows you to do things the right way, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, some level of preparation, just if not anything else, like it proves to yourself that you're taking this shit serious. You know what I mean? So it's like, rather than just like separating yourself from that emotional excitement of going and being an entrepreneur, like fucking looking at actually numbers and like slowing it down a little bit definitely helps. And, I love the fact that you talked about, like just risk in general. I mean, that shit's everywhere, right? And like a lot of the times people who work corporate jobs or, are doing their 9 to 5s, they're not to knock that at all, but I will knock the idea that you think that you're more secure than anybody else that is doing this, trying to make this shit work on their own. You know what I mean? Like you're at the mercy of your employers who, although some businesses seem to have this bulletproof track record, when you get hammered with something like COVID and just everything, is upside down, that security is no longer there. And these are things that I tell myself all the time just to feel more comfortable with my decisions and the risks that I'm taking, is that at least during this journey of, 10 years of entrepreneurship, I've built this level of resiliency of work ethic and not giving a fuck about the risk a lot of the times to show up and do that work over and again. Yeah, there might be some low ass moments, but I have this skill set and these tools and, in my toolkit to pull myself out of anything. And shit, it seems like, sometimes I fucking low key wish that everything came crashing down, all of the things that we're responsible for, so I could start over and be like, all right, fuck, I only got to make $4K a month. Shit, I do that I feel like I could do that shit no problem, after like all the shit that we've been through, Yeah, but,
man. Well, also going back to the 9 to 5 thing is like, in this time, what I see is like, man, I'm just so glad that I'm in control of what happens, versus like, are they going to lay me off? Are they going to tell me to take this pay cut? It's like right now, if I need to go make more money, like I just got to work and work at it. If I want to take a pay cut and stop, I'll stop. So that feeling is good for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been scary, like the whole COVID thing. And I guess like for the first time in years, like I felt some of that stuff shaken because, not coming from a lot of money, we're really told is like, hey, if you show up and you do the work, you're going to see success. It's going to pay off one way or another, whether you just through just like character building or, you becoming financially successful. But what COVID kind of showed our generation and, even people 10, 15, 20 years ahead of us or younger, is like all of us in this pocket, man, for the first time, work ethic isn't enough, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're being showed that we always talk about like controlling the controllables and getting comfortable with what's uncontrollable, but we never truly had that taste at this scale. And where it's like, man, we're showing up and we're putting in work and we're grinding, we're taking risks. And sometimes none of that even fucking matters, man. So it shines a light on how much of this stuff is luck, because we're so quick to assume that we achieved this shit. I fucking achieved this shit. Motherfucker, yeah, you got work ethic, but you really didn't achieve shit. You got lucky here. You were born in America. You had, great parents, blah, blah, blah. And it just really shines the light on that shit. And I hope people fucking are acknowledging that in this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, it's like, I feel like it's timing too. You know, we were like in this lucky space where things were good. And I think what it's also exposing a lot of things. Like if we all had holes in what we were doing, like they're coming out right now. You're like, damn, I wish I would have taken care, kind of like the podcast or the email list. It's like, man, I wish I would have built that up 10 years ago because that would be perfect for right now and things like
Yep.
that. So that's what we're looking at for sure right now.
Yeah. So from some of the online coaching, the nutrition coaching, now you're doing high def, and so what's that look like? How did you segue into that? How's that business set up? You guys, because I see you at a physical place too, so you guys are operating out of like a brick and mortar spot. Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Yeah. So basically I was doing the online stuff and, also coaching group classes and, then had a couple clients that I was training. And so it was kind of just me by myself all over the place. Like, I'll be honest, like right now, this would be like the worst thing to happen because I was just unorganized, just trying to like do whatever. And my buddy Zach, who, I mean, we were like best friends in high school. He moved and went to University of New Mexico. And so we kind of, were separated for a while. And then he became a doctor of physical therapy, moved back. And he was like, dude, I love all the stuff you're doing on social media and I'm big into it. Like, let's help each other out. So we would like work together on the weekends on content. And we were just like always talking, and I was telling him what I was doing. He was working at a clinic, and just those high volume clinics where it's like you see 50 people a week, and it's a grind.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of like talking about what we wanted, and we also talked a lot about how the things that are missing. Like physical therapy doesn't really work that well when you eat like shit. So they should have some knowledge. These people should get some knowledge on nutrition, right? And then personal training, like if people are getting injured and you don't have anywhere to go, or they have these minor injuries that aren't getting any better, like you need to have some physical therapy there. So we just see like a lot of disconnects in the industry, and we were always talking about how cool it would be to bring it together. And it was just like, man, I got to a point where the Jason thing, I was like, listen, I'm leaving my job. So, I'm going to go out on this on my own. Like, but we would love to do this together. And we just decided like, it's worth a shot. And so we were doing this business and he was still at his clinic. And then it was just, you get to those breaking points where you're like, what are we doing here? We either jump or decide it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then he quit his clinic. We started ramping up, and now it's been going well, man. We don't have our own brick and mortar, but we operate at a couple gyms downtown. And then he's also a mobile physical therapist, so he'll go to people's houses and things like that. And same for me, I'll train at people's houses. And
how's that? So how's that relationship with the different gyms that you guys operate out of?
It's good, man. They're owned by just one guy. He owns them both, and it's been great. And that's kind of why we've hung around. But our goal is to get our own physical space.
Cool. So is it kind of like a rent situation, or do you guys give him like a commission?
Yep. We just pay rent per session.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, trust me, man, a brick and mortar is not the end all be all. I mean, again, when we're thinking about clarity and like what we want out of our space, it definitely plays a role when you're like, all right, fuck, I'm running all over the place. So it makes more sense for me to put in routes and let people come to me. So ultimately you can do more volume and shit. But, again, like trying to stay on top of the risks that you can control, and not get too tied up in some of those fucking leases or, like, whew. So again, I love the approach that you guys are doing, man. Like, because the focus should be on the business and the customers. And we're always so concerned with gross revenue when that's what people spit out. And it's man, it's what the fuck is left over. And it's like, how much impact are you having and what you have left after it's all said and done,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what we've kind of always tried to think about is just that bootstrapping mentality, like we got a good situation with these spots. Let's continue to build until it's like that breaking point. It's like, hey, we either this is what we're going to max out on, or we got to get that space. But yeah, I mean, these times make it, you're like, well, what is the right move?
Yeah.
It's unknown right now, but I'm happy with the direction for sure.
Um, as far as you guys' partnership goes, like how do you guys have that like structured? Like, do you guys divide and conquer? Does he take on some aspects of the business? Do you focus on others? What does that look like?
I mean, definitely as far as the main services like physical therapy, he handles all that. And then I handle all the training and nutrition coaching. But as far as like the operational stuff, yeah, we divide, and what we've tried to do is just kind of see where people gravitate. Like he likes a lot of the numbers stuff. Like doing the accounting and things like that for now. And then he likes a lot of he likes the website stuff. So I'm like, hey, that's all you
Yeah.
can do that. And then as far as like the social media and things along those lines, that's kind of where I'll handle it, and the podcasting and all that. But yeah, I think it's trying to just figure out the things that we still like to do. I mean, there's obviously going to be things that you don't want to do, but if we can try to limit those and make sure that everyone's doing something that makes them happy as long as possible, like that, I think that should be the goal.
Yeah, nah, for sure. So man, let's start dropping some nuggets on people, man. So from the nutrition side of things, we all, we believe wholeheartedly that should be kind of the starting point, man. Nutrition, kind of the simple things as far as like focusing on sleep, hydration, these big rocks that are going to have a lot of impact over your time as being a coach and trainer. Is there anything that we find ourselves, I would assume so, you too, is just like, saying it depends a lot, like everybody wants this quick little script, and, unfortunately it depends. However, is there anything that you can say that's pretty wide sweeping across all your clients or just general population that you would recommend from the nutrition standpoint?
Yeah, I think as far as it depends goes, I think I wish people would look at like what they wanted this to look like, right? And start there. Whereas everyone's always like, what do I got to do? Do I got to cut out carbs? I guess, it's like, what do you want to do? And let's build from there.
Yeah.
Because I think certain people, they're like, I love eggs, I love bacon, I love cheese. It's like, all right, let's build around that versus saying like, you got to cut all fat out, that's going to make you fat or something like that. So that's where I try to start people. But as far as like things that most people could benefit from, I would say definitely protein. I don't think many people eat enough of it. And that, it's so beneficial for so many different reasons that I think people get confused. It's like people think, oh, you just think everyone wants to build muscle or something like that. But it's like, no, well, if you eat enough protein, that's also going to satisfy your hunger and lower your calories. So if you're trying to lose weight, like that's going to be beneficial. You're going to get a bigger bang for your buck. And that's a big reason most people are overeating, is because all they're doing is taking in high carb, high fat foods that are then, not filling them up the way they should. Then, I would say I wish more people got a better idea of their calorie intake. I don't think everyone needs to track their calories or whatever, but I think everyone should at least let's take a look at what I'm typically eating,
Mm-hmm.
because anytime I've had a client and we start out and it's like, all right, just record what your day is like. They're always like, wow, I didn't know I was eating that much. And it's like, yeah, obviously not, and so I think anything you can do to create awareness would be big.
Yeah, and and some of these, this is why it's so important to work with a coach, because there's multiple, someone because you might be reading articles and you might think that you have to track calories, but it's tracking and it's accountability. And that shows up in so many different ways, and a coach is there to hold you accountable. I mean, getting an idea and bringing some awareness to what you're eating could simply look like a picture of your meals, like it doesn't need to be fucking, measuring everything out. There might be a time and a place for that depending on your goals, but it really is just bringing awareness, like you said, man. So super crucial. And unfortunately, it's just people want to, we all want to overcomplicate it. You know what I mean? And I think maybe one thing I'd add is like, I wish that people understood how long some of these things take. You know what I mean? That is like, slow it down, man. That's just like, this is, although we know we might get hit by a bus tomorrow, you're not going to fucking have a six pack tomorrow, no matter what you do. So it's just like, let's play the long game, man. Let's make true lifestyle change.
And yeah, and that's, you guys have seen it, and I've talked to Andrew about it. Like, that's just the struggle with the industry, is because we're saying this, but someone's saying that you can do that, and then you either build that trust in that person, or the person's just going to go to the person who says they will get the six pack in a week. And it's like, oh God.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating, man. So, it's all about, I guess, meeting people where they are, and if you are a coach, and you have a client that is coming to you with that information, I mean, you got to be okay with kind of letting them take their lumps, and because I've gone through, my whole fucking journey of every single fucking diet you name it, I've gone through it all, and I've followed X, Y, and Z, but it wasn't until I experienced this shit over, goddamn near 20 years now, that I've come to my conclusions of what ultimately works and why I'm so willing to play the long game now. But, I would say if somebody is coming to you with those unrealistic goals, like, don't be afraid to let them go and take their lumps and stay connected with them. Like, if you are playing the long-term game, you're going to grab their email. You're going to try to get them on that email list, or have them following you on Instagram. And then it's just slow and consistent messaging and showcasing what you're doing as an individual to apply to your life. Because, that's another thing that's frustrating, is like coaches not leading by example and actually doing the shit that they're talking about, man. So as far as, your nutrition habits go, because there's definitely, I would imagine there's challenges, like the thing about this is that it doesn't stop. You're an individual, you're human just like anybody else. So what do you find as like one of the bigger challenges with like the advice that you fucking know and that you give all the time? What is something that you find yourself slipping on a lot?
Well, I think it's like this COVID time, I knew that I wasn't going to be moving as much, because like all my clients, well, I mean, we're back in the gym now, but for a while, like it was just Zoom workouts. So literally, man, like it'd be 8:00 at night and I'd be like 700 steps for the day, and I'm just like, you're just not moving. And so I knew like, I gotta like eat less, right? Like I'm not burning as many calories. I'm not as active. And I was just like, but I just do not want it. Like I want to keep eating the things that I am eating, and I'm at home all day. So like, I want to eat more, so that was a tough thing to fight. And even to this day, this is what I tell people as well, is like, I think it's more about setting yourself up for a life that you don't have to have as much discipline for, versus like trying to create discipline. Because like this company sent me like this granola, and I was like, oh, that's pretty high calorie. I had like 2 bites. Next thing I know, like 2 bags are gone, and I'm just like, oh, there's 700 calories just on these snacks, but I just don't buy anything like that.
Yeah, can't have that in the house. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm like, I don't have any more discipline. I just don't have it around, because I know what goes down. It's easy to just be working on the computer, just throwing things down. And so that's my big principle, man, is like, I know, and that goes back to awareness, like figuring out what your triggers are, or where you do struggle. And my whole thing is like, so make it easier to get over that, versus, oh, I'm only going to have 1 bite. It's like, what are you doing to yourself here?
Yeah, no, and that's, I guess, segues into like the easy wins, like that branding that you have, like it's very recognizable. Whenever it's whenever I hear that, I think of you. You know what I mean? And it's so important. So maybe go into a little bit of about why setting up smaller goals and easy wins are so crucial for long term success.
Yeah, man. Well, so it all started with my like nutrition journey, and that was why I was passionate about nutrition in the first place, was because, I mentioned I was an athlete all my life and I always worked out and I was always in the gym, but not until, maybe like 5, 6 years ago was I really serious about my nutrition. And I was like the microwave king, man. If it wasn't frozen, my like college, it was corn dogs and things like that. And then after that, it was chicken bakes and frozen pizzas. That was it. And I started to see the side effects of that. I was just like, I was at my office job, like falling asleep all day. I was like, man, I'm 22 years old. Like I should be able to stay awake. I'm not a 6-year-old man, So
Yeah.
I started to or I remember at that time I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to go on a diet or something like that. Right. Like I didn't want to make these big changes. I was like, man, what if I just picked one thing? What if I picked one thing where I'm just going to drink enough water? Like I'm not going to do anything else. Just going to drink some more water. And then I focused on that. And what do you know? I was like, well, I start to feel better. And then I was like, what's another thing I can do? And that started to build up. And I remember, you know, uh, shoot, maybe a year or two later, I remember I was like, wow, I look better than I ever have. I feel better than I ever. I never remember having this much energy. And I was like, what did I even do? And I was like, what even happened here? And then I was like, oh, shoot, those easy wins that I was doing, those little things that I've been doing are adding up. Wow, there's something to this. And then, I was like, I got to share this with people. And I just started sharing like the little things. And what I got from that was that if you do those little things and you make them small, they don't seem like much. Right. Versus like everyone's like, oh my God, I'm on this diet. And it's like the biggest stressor of their life. Right. Like, oh my God, I'm working out 10 days, or 7 days a week. It's so hard. And it's like, if you just did these little things, you'd be able to be consistent with them. And eventually they're gonna turn into results.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're taking away a lot of the resistance and the friction associated with some of these things, and not to mention the psychological benefits of actually getting the win. You know what I mean? So it's like that's how momentum gets built, because some of these habits that you're changing are so ingrained that if you just go straight for it, like you're gonna unfortunately take the L, and one or two L's halts progress and puts you right back to a negative headspace. And it's very tough to get that momentum back, and that's why, it's not that a morning routine is magical, but when you have a good one set up, you're getting early wins, easy wins in the morning. And then that's going to just segue the confidence in so that you are still getting those wins later in the day. I guess in regards to morning routines, I think probably life's a little bit of hectic right now as gyms are reopening and you guys are getting back to the in-person stuff. But do you have anything that you adhere to in the morning to set yourself up for those easy wins?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's changed over time. It was always a big part of my life. And then, when I started to coach in the morning, 5 a.m., it's like, well, I'm not getting up at 3:30 just so I can get my, my routine in. But then it just shortens down a bit, right? So like before, when I was just working, I had all these things I would do. It was like drink water, get some high protein meal in, read for 30 minutes, hit some mobility. But then as it shifted, it was like, all right, I'm still going to give myself enough time to hydrate, right? Then I was like, I got to make something quick so I can get some protein in, because I like to eat first thing in the morning. Not saying everyone has to, just something I like to do. And then I always still make time to read at least a little bit, because I think that that is just like a spark for your mind, and I try to make it something like, a self-help book or something like that. Because it's just crazy how different your day could be if you jump on Twitter, and you see all this negative shit versus you don't touch any social media. You jump on, read a page from, like, I'm reading the Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard right now. You read a page there, like it just completely changes your day and changes the way you operate. And so, if it's going to be, if I'm not going to have much time, I'm still going to do something. One page is a lot better than scrolling Twitter.
No, absolutely. And then, and before like, if time permits, that one page is going to turn into 2, turn into 3. And that's super important, man. Unfortunately mine just right now is consistent of water, man, because I got to make sure I'm starting with that win. And it's like, shit's so hectic, so reactive right now. Life is friggin' chaotic as shit. That is, at the very least, I'm getting that water in, and I'm okay with that right now. So yeah. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, and just know that, again, times, throughout the year are going to be harder than others, so just being okay with that. I'm big on trying to not beat myself up about it. That's probably my biggest challenge, is like, the negative self-talk, or just like, that's always been what has been motivating in the past, is like talking shit, like, oh, you little bitch, like, go do what you got to do. But it's like, that weighs on you. There is a better way. It's about being a little more neutral and giving yourself a little bit more leeway, because when we're in this, we're forgetting about all the awesome things that we've already done and that we're currently doing. Because your game just gets elevated as you go down this. So it's like taking a step back, not being so hard on myself, and looking at all the things that I got going on, and just cutting myself some slack, man. It goes a long way.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point, is you got to be able to adjust, right? Because as much as we like to get our wins in, if someone has all these wins they try to get, and then their schedule changes, and then they start like not doing it, they feel like a failure. But it's like, no, your shit just changed. So let's set it up so you can win, right? Like, you could be like, oh man, I can't read 10 pages like I used to. I can't get all this done. I don't get my 20-minute mobility flow in. And it's like, yeah, but things are changing. So let's create a schedule that allows you to stay on that winning mindset.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with clients and you're coaching people, and somebody comes to you, because I know you're big on the why and trying to get people to discover their why, when they come to you with kind of very superficial, or a why that's not sustainable, how do you dance around that? Do you even attempt to try to help them change that why, or do you rock with them and just let that unfold? What's your recommendation for other coaches out there as they try to help people discover their why?
Yeah, man, I always try to dig a little deeper, because I don't know many people who have like immediately come with that, like, hey, this is what I got to do. This is why I need to do it. And even if they do, I still try to push a little deeper, because I need it to be at the top of their mind, and I need them to understand it, right? Like, someone might come and say, I had a doctor's appointment and it was bad. And I've had people say that and still drop off, So I'm like, well, you still didn't care about it enough. And so that's where I really try to dig into, is I want to see, what do you actually care about, and how can we link the two? Because even that doctor's appointment, maybe someone still doesn't care that much about their health. They don't have that, self-worth built up where they know they need to take care of this. So I just try to link it to something they care about. If they're always talking about their kids, then it's like, well, then that's your why. You're doing it. You don't, like, it doesn't have to be because your body is in bad shape. It's because that is not allowing you to do things with your kids. Right. So just really trying to understand what their life is like, and what their interests are, and how I can link the two. Because, yeah, man, I mean, anyone who, unless they're like a competitor or something like that, anyone who comes and like, I want to lose 20 pounds, it's like, well, that's not going to do much for you. And when it gets really tough and it's not working, that's not going to be strong enough to keep you going. You need something else. And, you know, for other coaches out there, like I've had people who I was unsuccessful at getting them to link that together. You know, I'm not going to say we're 100% like success rate. Like some people, it's just, they need to go through a few more things. But that's definitely what I try to do.
Yeah. So kind of coming up on that hour, just let's talk a little bit. You mentioned mindset coaching. You know, that's something that you guys do. Why did you guys think that was important? And, you know, what does that look like?
Yeah, man. I mean, that was just something that Zach and I always agreed on, and we're always like coming back to, you know, whether it was nutrition, training, or physical therapy, it was always like, if their mind isn't in it, or their mind isn't right, or they don't have that growth mindset, it was just like, yeah, it's probably not going to work. And so we were like, we love training, we love all this stuff, but we got to have that anchor, because if you don't really believe that the physical therapy is going to get you healthier, you're not going to commit to it. You're not going to do what you need to do, and you're just going to limit your progress. Same goes with all the other stuff. So, you know, we were kind of just like, what can we really bring to the table here? And talk to guys like Trevor Moawad, you know, the mindset coach for players and athletes. And we're like, you know, players have these resources, but I mean, a business person like you or anyone, like we're a life athlete. We still need that mindset to be in a good place. Like, why wouldn't that be beneficial? So really just kind of piggybacked off different mindset coaches that we've talked to, and just created programs where we're really starting out with that why, getting people clear on it, and then just starting to look at being kind of like what we talked about earlier, just being more intentional with their time. You know, so we're looking at, what does your day look like? What do you want to get accomplished? How do we start to connect the two? And then just really honing in on that self-talk and that self-belief. So Trevor Moad's big thing is that neutral thinking. So rather than saying, like during these COVID times, oh, everything is great. No, we're doing awesome. I love this. It's like, no, just admit this is shitty, but it sucks. But here's what we got to do to move forward, versus this sucks. What can we do? You know, negative thinking never works. Positive thinking, you know, sometimes it doesn't work because you ignore what's really going on. Whereas if you're neutral, you admit everything that's going on, you can then move forward. So, you know, we really try to work on reducing the negatives in people's lives, that negative self-talk, that negative verbalization and things along those lines, and really just, you know, coach throughout the process on what they need as we go on.
Yeah, no, man, I absolutely love that. I mean, because like you mentioned, once you have the right mindset, people are going to be more bought in. And if you're a coach, like, and you push the message that we push as well, it's like, and you don't want to play that game of the short-term sexy sale because you know it doesn't work. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, slow, long-term mindset shifts in order now to believe in what we're talking about, that you are worth this long-term marathon that sometimes this turns into, and you're not as susceptible to this super hot smoking chick holding a smoothie. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't need that, because you see right through it, because you have this more this mindset that and understanding ultimately. And you know, I think that's a hell of a strategy. You know, ultimately to build a clientele too. You know, because we don't want to spend all that time convincing somebody to save their fucking life. You know what I mean? So if we can talk about mindset here or wherever in the content that we put out, you're more likely to get people with this baseline level of mindset and more ready for change at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a great point, is you kind of then bring people in with that mindset versus like, and you know, everyone's probably dealt with the people you're working with. You're like, man, they're just not bought in. They just don't believe in this. And that becomes really tough. And yeah, you want to work with them. But have you ever read the book Mindset?
I don't know if I have. No. Who wrote it?
Carol Dweck.
Nah.
You should check it out. It just talks about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and really just shows you the differences between the two, and then how to adopt that growth mindset. So like the fixed is like, this is just how I am. This is how things are. Whereas the growth is like, I can become what I want to become, like this is how I can get, I might not be there, but I can get to where I want to be. And I think, man, if you start to adopt that approach, like things are limitless.
Yeah, I mean, you have more agency and accountable. You hold yourself accountable a little bit more because you actually understand that you can create change. And it's like uh, having employees in a team of, a big team, and oftentimes younger team members. That's all that I could ever hope for. And it's so tough, and I try to just lead by example, like as simple as like, if you're walking past a napkin on the ground, pick up the fucking napkin, man. Like you can own that. That can be you. You can change that. And trying to just because I know if I can empower that mindset a little bit more, like, because I don't like the details. I don't want to hold your hand. I don't even want to tell you how to do a lot of shit. But because I feel like that all takes care of itself if you have this understanding of this mindset, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's big for me, and like trying to get people to understand it without like forcing them is the tricky part. And it's like, I try to just do it by example, hoping that people are watching, but sometimes they are. So then they got to hear the fucking mouth too.
Well, and talking to conversations with Andrew, that's what I loved about what you guys are doing, man, is like you get that opportunity to work with the youth and start them on this journey young, because that's what it's all about. And, I look back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have been thinking this way, 10, 20 years ago. So that's a really cool part of what you guys have going on.
Yeah, you're right, man. And that's again, like perspective and just remembering that, and like, that is our opportunity to have real impact and change, and sometimes we get pulled away from that and we think this, all the customers we're servicing is the goal when it's not, like you said, it's the handful of people and teenagers and young 20s that I got right in front of me that I can just focus in on and feel better and more accomplished at the end of the day by having, that impact. So you're right, man. Thank you for shedding light on that again, man. But yeah, dude, we're about at that time. So do me a favor and let people know where to find you if they're in the Seattle area and they want some legitimate coaching to get them through not only COVID, but through the bullshit that they've dealt with in the past, and get the realness, man. Where can they find you, bro?
Yeah, man. So HiDefSeattle.com. They can contact us about coaching or even if they got some aches or pains, physical therapy. And then I am on Instagram at EasyWinsMitch, and then HiDef Seattle as well. And then, yeah, Zach, the PT, is our physical therapist. So hit us up, man. We're always down to answer questions, and yeah, happy to connect with anyone.
Yeah, man. Well, appreciate the time. Thank you for spreading that message of not only mindset and nutrition, but just that this shit doesn't come overnight, man. The more people we have on our team, man, spreading that, that are cool, approachable cats, you know what I mean, is what's necessary. You know what I mean? So thank you for that. And as always, you guys can find me at Cub_Saldana, at Barcode_Collective, but better yet, come and see me in person at Pasadena Space Bar and Fib Bar. Until next time, we are out of here.